Hello, everybody. This is Jason Ouellette, and I am with Johnson Controls as the head of technology and business innovation. I'm excited to be here today and to be able to share some interesting topics with you. In particular, I'm going to be talking today about autonomy and in security, how robots are going to be shaping the industry. And so it's definitely a topic which I feel extremely passionate about. So with that, we'll get into starting to give a little bit of a background first as to why does this matter, right? In the end, what is pushing and starting to drive the adoption and growth of topics like robots and quite frankly, drones as well, to expand into the security industry. So first is to really just recognize and talk about robotics not being anything new for sure. When we look at industries like automotive or in food service, and we've been seeing the growth and revolutionization of those industries by robotics, right? Typically like the mechanical arms and devices that can do repetitive tasks. And so by no means is robotics a new topic, but in security, it still is fairly early in the adoption phase of things. And why are we starting to see that adoption begin to grow and a peaking of interest? Well, it has a lot to do with the changes in the world. And so this information that I'm sharing on this slide is from Ontic Center for Protective Intelligence. And they went off and surveyed all these CEOs and IT leaders of companies and basically asked them, what type of risks and impacts are you seeing? And when we look at these type of results, what we see clearly is that 20 to 30% of those leaders are experiencing, whether it's vandalizations, cyber attacks, workplace violence, these type of activities. And those things come at a great cost, right? It causes all kinds of stability, certainly impact to revenue as well. So there's a need to try to bring those statistics down, right? To reverse the trend of these increasing type of risks. And robots can certainly provide a means of deterrence, right? And I'll talk to some of the advantages and why that technology helps to serve that. But ultimately, having that deterrence and providing the feeling of safety around people, being able to leverage something that doesn't require necessarily a human being to be involved with driving it. So that becomes quite powerful. So I also want to talk a bit about the word autonomy, right? So autonomy gets used a lot, and it's not always necessarily the same thing. So for instance, you can have autonomy with robots that are basically record and replay. And that's powerful. And they even bring in dynamic obstacle avoidance. So, it can encounter something that maybe wasn't on the path when it was recorded and learn how to navigate around that. But if an event shows up in a place that isn't pre-recorded or known, then you have to have somebody to drive the robot, right? So in those type of cases, you're going to have a driver of that robot to handle the variations that might happen from anything that was a pre-record. And then you have more of what I like to refer to as the dynamic deployment. So in essence, think about it in a security perspective in a building, a forced door, a camera goes out of focus, that there's a motion sensor, temperature alert, anything like that. And the robot is informed of that issue and location, and then figures out all on its own the fastest way possible to get there without a human being having to be involved with any of that navigation, right? The focus in robotics and autonomy, true autonomy to me, is really about not having to have staff in the security operations center having to learn how to take on new things like driving a robot, right? And let's let them focus on what they already do every day, which is controlling the cameras and being able to put eyes where they need to from a remote location. And now the benefit of the power of the most advanced video riding on wheels that automatically gets where you need it to be when it needs to be. So that becomes quite powerful. And again, autonomy gets used a lot, but you really have to think about, is it a partial autonomy that needs human collaboration to make it work? Or is this something that you can really focus on the security aspects and the response to something as opposed to the observation? And that's really what I would say is a focus of true autonomy and where the bigger benefits can come from. So ultimately, how does that impact the industry? We know that the risks are growing. We know that there's technology that's now available that brings levels of autonomy. But when we think about security functions, so event management is a big part of what happens in the world of security, and events can be a limitless number of different activities. But when those happen, like I was mentioning, the forced door, a camera goes offline for whatever reason. It's dropped off the network. It's lost power. Being able to then deploy the robot as an automatic response, so you now have a temporary camera sitting in that location, and you're not losing or having a blind spot, right? You could have panic sensors that are sitting at a reception desk that somebody triggers. You could have a refrigerator or a freezer that has critical materials in it. And when the temperature alarm goes off, you can bring the robot in and have remote eyes to inspect and see exactly what's going on to really improve that true situational awareness. Respond to access control events like tailgate violations or forced and held doors. So any of those type of activities, now you're able to literally communicate, let the robot know the location of that, and automatically respond. Then we think about the patrols and the more human element. Well, our industry is not not just focused on the person aspect of things. For years, we've had the ability to do things like video tours. And so now I can take cameras that are fixed and installed around the facility and just literally systematically work through those, executing, for instance, on pan-tilt zoom type cameras, presets and patterns, right? Being able to have all that recorded for forensic purposes later on. But now, when we think about the human element of it, it used to be a lot of times too, you would randomize the patrols, right? You didn't want to have a predictability. So when we add robots and we are doing autonomous patrols, now imagine I specify a start and an end time, and it randomizes when in that it begins to do the patrol, and whatever stops there are, randomizing those stops. So there's an unpredictability to when a patrol is actually happening, but it's always going to get executed. And so that becomes a really powerful aspect, because I'm now able to take the video tour and put that more missing human element of that travel and be able to even cover the blind spots where fixed cameras don't necessarily give you the capability and the full 360 view around the robot. So patrols become an important aspect of how we can shape and change security, leveraging autonomy and things like robots. And when it comes to inspections, well, now we have a great platform, and we live in such a sensor-rich world. Being able to take on temperature, humidity, volatile gases, which can include things like propane, butane, methane, carbon monoxide, all of these sort of harmful things that again, as soon as that picks up in real time, you can get notified of those type of alarms and respond, right? Which ultimately can save lives. And then, continue to expand in adding sensors for leak detections. And then at the bottom of the slide here, it also talks about being able to leverage AI, which becomes yet another set of sensing that can occur. So things like crowd formation, the enforcement of PPE, right? Safety equipment where people, maybe need to be wearing hard hats or medical equipment and respirators, or in the time of a pandemic, and enforce that mask restrictions are in place, right? So being able to as you're patrolling in detect those things and alert when it sees any type of problems. Compliance validation even for like insurance purposes, being able to inspect and make sure that exit ways and all those types of things are not blocked. And because the worst time you want to find out about something like that is during an event, right? So those become important. Being able to leverage the video components on a robot that allows you to do things like facial recognition and be able to validate that a person who just swiped in the badge, that face is the same exact person, right? That somebody didn't just pick up that badge and access into an area that they should not be, right? So these are all important and powerful things. And then we take that to more of the concierge level, right? Where now, instead of coming in and checking it at a kiosk, the robot becomes the kiosk, provides a two-way communication and ability to contact the host and escort a visitor to exactly where they need to be. Again, without somebody having to drive the robot, all responding autonomously. So these are the type of services and benefits that robots can bring to the industry, right? With a level of automation and again, true autonomy, it really does make such an impact. And the ROI on having this starts to have multiple avenues of benefit, because we're not just talking about security anymore. This can provide sort of that reception aspect of things. It provides facility inspection, so facilities gets involved, and how that information can help to save and prevent from damages and unlikely or likely consequences to failed equipment and things like that. So this is really exciting, and it's early days and how this technology is starting to really shape into the industry, but both for indoor and outdoor use cases, this really is something that over the next 5 years, we're going to begin to see more and more use cases and benefits. So with that, I'd like to take a minute to talk about where we are now in the development and release of our first indoor security robot. So this is the JCI security robot, and it's powered through our partner, Ava Robotics. So that bottom part of the robot is all the Ava Robotics navigation elements, and I'll talk in a few minutes about the importance of why the platform mattered to us. But then everything sort of above that silver line in the middle becomes the payload, right? And that's where Johnson Controls and the security aspect comes in. So, just here highlighted on the slide are a few of the key elements that we would share. So one, on the top of this, we are introducing the Illustra Pro Gen 4 camera. This is a full 4K, so very superior resolution with a 22x optical zoom. So literally the robot could be across the room. You could zoom in on an intrusion panel and read the screen, any alert status, right? You can get to reading details on labels, badges, clear resolution for seeing faces, all those type of things. There is also a Pro Gen 2 megapixel camera that sits just on the back neck of that robot. So it sees fully all the way around it, and there's no sneaking up from a video perspective. So this gives you the improved situational awareness, along with being able to leverage analytics and the power of that. And the cameras are fully OnViv compliant. So the cameras can be integrated into any VMS platform as a result of that, not just the Johnson Controls VMS brands. So that's powerful from the security payload side of things. Also in the payload is the sensors to be able to do temperature and humidity, and the temperature is within a 0.2 degrees Celsius level of accuracy. So really does give you a good precision for reading, as well as doing the air quality, as I mentioned. So looking for things like carbon monoxide or excessive use of cleaning agents, and that might become a harmful level, or again, combustible type gases. So by doing air sampling and reading those, we can give real-time alerts based on what those sensors see. And then as well, leveraging the 10.2-inch iPad display, we're now able to do the two-way communications with people that might be interfacing with the robot, and as well be able to provide direct ability to communicate with staff provide messages, whether the robot is on a patrol, responding to an event, on a manual action, or just sitting idle. So you'll be able to know exactly what the robot is doing by a simple, quick look at it. And so this really does give us the platform to begin to introduce some really incredible solutions to the security industry, and with a focus on that payload of really being security centric, right? Well, that bottom part, the partner aspects from Ava Robotics, allows us to not have to worry about having people who know how to drive robots and configure robots, and all of that happens autonomously. So why does the platform matter? Well, the platform matters because we're not the only ones stepping into the robotic space. So Ava has other services that they provide with other partners. So we have the security robot, which is partnered with Johnson Controls. They also have a telepresence robot, which is their first commercial release of the Ava platform that does the telepresence. And so telepresence, certainly in the medical industry, while we've been going through COVID and remote working, has become an increasing trend. And so, really big display, communicates well, gives you the ability to be in a sit or a stand posture, which is, extremely useful for whether you're in a meeting room and you want to be sitting at the same level that everybody is around the table, or if you're maybe at a convention and moving around and everybody is in a stand, right? So very powerful in terms of that technology. And then as well, they also have facility and UV disinfecting robots that can go around, do the patrols, provide detailed reports of areas that have been disinfected, and if an area was skipped for any reason, be able to highlight that so you can focus cleaning staff and and make sure that people going into an area are aware and safe. And so the benefit of this is that these all run on the same platform. So once a facility is mapped, and any one of these robots can leverage that map without having to retrain it. So this payload aspect becomes quite powerful and gives a level of flexibility to meet many needs, not just security. So we're quite proud of that partnership. We're also very proud of being able to bring technology in a innovative way and be part of that early adopting curve. So that really is what I have brought to share today. And so I don't know if if there's ability to put questions in the chat, or the any particulars about either the technology in general. I will just say here that robots, I include in this the conversation of drones, and while I haven't focused on that aspect today, autonomy and drones is very much also shaping the industry, both for indoor and outdoor. Being able to leverage things like LiDAR for indoor and mapping facilities, just like the robots do, and externally, leveraging not just GPS and magnetometers, but now, really the 3D imaging and video to give you superior obstacle avoidance, right? There's drones out there and technology that can be at 40 miles an hour flying through a forest and able to navigate trees and branches. And when you think about that, that's really impressive in terms of the technology. But now leveraging that to be able to communicate an event, deploy autonomously. So again, nobody has to be the pilot. These drone companies that are now getting beyond line of sight waivers from the FAA and regulatory bodies to be able to, in a perimeter of a facility, fly the drones without pilots outdoors. So again, going to really shape the industry, and a lot of exciting things that are going on. So with that, if there are any questions, I know we're coming up to the end of the session here, but happy to address if there are any questions people have.